the tuition fee that they're talking about, right? There's going to be additional fees like your living cost, your room and board cost, your health insurance cost, miscellaneous like cost for like books and supplies and so on, right? So different kinds of like costs need to be added. Now, as a grad student, to be on status, which is to be, legally an international student in the US, you have to take at least 9 credits per semester. Okay, you could increase the credits to be like more than 9, but the minimum, that can be is like 9 credits. Okay, if you go less than 9 credits, then it means that you're going to fall out of status, and you'll be illegally staying in the US. Okay, so it's important that you remember this. And also, as international students, you have to be a full-time students. You will see like colleges, giving you price for like full-time student, part-time students, and so on. But international students must always be a full-time student in the US. So if they've given you like the cost according to the credit hours, in that case you can multiply that into 9. So at least you know like what would be the cost. But the safest way would be to contact the college admissions and ask them what is the I-20 cost. Okay, so if you've already seen an I-20, if in case you do not know what's an I-20, it's the admission document that the colleges send a student once they are accepted, right? So if you have looked at the I-20, they will tell you in detail like what is, what are the different kinds of costs that you will need to pay. So it will say tuition fee this much, right? Room and board cost this much. Your books and supplies cost this much. Health insurance cost like this much, right? So it is going to give you like a total amount. So to know exactly like what is the cost and how much you have to pay for certain things, you can ask the college about it. Okay, there are like some colleges, where maybe the tuition fee is lesser than the living cost. Okay, so there are going to be places such as that as well, where living is like pretty expensive, like in that area. So the living cost might be like more, right? So you really want to find out exactly like what is the cost and how much you have to pay for certain things. Fields. Okay, sorry, like our internet, something's wrong with the internet today. But I was asking a question related to science and engineering majors. Why do you think that there is more scholarship in the science and engineering majors? Can you put that in the chat box? Answers in the chat box. More research activity, right? Yeah, you're right. So professors are doing more research work in the science and engineering field. So that is why you would find like more scholarship in these fields. But again, like if you are not from the science and engineering field, don't be disheartened. There are going to be like, different kinds of like projects professors might be working on. But when you are comparing, like how much is available, in the science and engineering field, we find more. when compared to the other fields. Okay, so that is the only thing. But other fields also you will find, scholarships. Okay, so grad versus undergrad. So when you are thinking of applying to US colleges, uh, when we are comparing like who gets more scholarship, is it like the grad or the undergrad? Actually, grad students get more scholarship, okay, when compared to the undergrad. The grad students are receiving scholarships from the professors in whose department you would be like studying, right? Whereas the undergrad students, the scholarship provided to them is given by the college or the university. Now, in the US, professors are applying for different kinds of grants. So when they apply for these grants, when they receive these grants, around 40% of the grant that they receive will be used at the university because they're using the facility and so on. And 60% of the money that they've received is going to be given as, scholarship to the students, right? And professors will be like applying to different companies or different like organizations to receive these grants so that they are able to hire students to help them in the research that they are working on and so on. So it's important for grad level students to find out not just like choosing the university and thinking I want to go and study here, but trying to find out like which professor is in that particular department. What kind of work is that professor doing? Is it something that you are interested in, right? So these are like some important things that you need to research before you decide on saying, I'll be applying to this university or college. Okay. Now, I said that grad students do receive more, but in the grad too, there are two categories, right? There are master's and PhD students. So the PhD students are going to receive more funding when compared to the master's level. Okay. So if you have completed your bachelor's here in Nepal, if it's a 4 years bachelor's, one thing that is like very different than in other countries is that you can go directly from your bachelor's to your PhD as well. Okay, we have seen some students from Nepal who've done their bachelor's, they applied directly for PhD and they got into the program. And there are a reason why they got in was while they were here in Nepal, they were involved in the field that they were studying. They did different kinds of like project works. They had written like publications, journals and all that. Participated in like different kinds of conferences, presented papers and all that, right? So that uh, made the application strong and they were able to be accepted at the PhD like programs. Okay. Now, if you're applying for the master's, many colleges will say, oh, we have to look at your application. Once you arrive on campus, we will see like how you're performing. Based on that, only we can decide like whether we can give you assistantships or so on, right? So colleges can say this as well, right? They may not be giving scholarship to master's level as readily as the PhD level. Some may, but many will like say, okay, we have to take a look. Now, if you're applying for the master's level, what we would also recommend is try to see that there is also a PhD program in the same field that you're studying at that university where you are applying. If you do that, there might be PhD students who are doing the research work. They might also need help, and in that case, you might get like work there, right? So that way, you're able to get some kind of like funding, right? So that is another thing. And you might think, okay, right now you are just interested in masters, and once you go to the college, you feel that, oh wow, I should have applied for like a PhD program. And if you are like doing really well in your master's program, the professor, they can bump you up to the PhD as well, because the first 2 years of the PhD student is similar to like the master's. Okay, so that can also be done. Okay, so if you're only applying for masters, check out the university whether they offer the PhD also in the field that you are planning to study. So next, when we compare the private schools versus public schools, private schools have more money because they have a lot of endowment. They have like donors and all that, right? Whereas public colleges are funded mainly by the government, so they have like less, right? But then public schools can be really huge in size. If you are a person who's done like like teaching and all that, here you have that experience, you are trying to seek like teaching assistantship and so on, the public college is going to be the right college for you where you could get these assistantships. Okay. Now, private schools, some may provide you, but usually it is the professors who are, dealing with or teaching the students, right? So they may not have as many positions for teaching assistantships when compared to the public colleges. But private colleges, since they have a lot of money, they might have a lot of research like going on and so on. Not that public colleges won't be doing like research; they will also be doing like research. But in comparison, in terms of research, private might have a lot more, whereas in terms of the teaching assistantship, public colleges are going to have a lot more. Okay, now the And why we say this is because in the fall, it is the beginning of the academic year. So colleges are able to provide more scholarship. They have like fresh budget, more money that they can distribute. Some of the colleges may not have like spring intakes for international students. Even if they take you in, they might say you'll have to wait until the fall to get the funding, right? Some could provide, not that none will provide. Some could provide, but there's always going to be more funding available in the fall, which is the August session. Okay, so if you are thinking of the August session, time is ticking. Okay, if you are thinking of applying for this August, many colleges might have already started closing down the deadlines, but some will still have it open, right? So you have to do your research properly and apply quickly if you're thinking of this August session. So for the grad student, you are given scholarship based on your merit. For undergrad students, sometimes, like if a student is like needy, they might be like given like scholarship based on the needs and so on as well, right? But for the grad student, it's always based on merit. So by merit, what do we mean? Okay, it means that you have to have a good test score, you have to have good SOP, recommendation letters, and mastery of chosen field. Okay, so test scores, it could be the standardized test scores. For example, the college will ask you for English proficiency, like test score, right? So, for example, let's say you're taking the TOEFL. For grad students, some colleges will have a criteria where instead of just giving you marks, like let's say TOEFL is out of 120, so instead of saying you have to get 90 out of 120, they might also have like certain marks set for each of the different sections for the TOEFL. So they'll say, okay, we require a 25 out of 30 for listening, 25 out of 30 for maybe writing. So, they will let you know, right? So that is like for some of the grad schools. So you have to make sure that you know like what is the score that is required, especially because you're applying for assistantship, like research assistantship or teaching assistantship. So you have to be able to express yourself well. So through your speaking section, they are trying to find out whether you can do that. You might have to do a lot of like papers, like writing papers. So they want to see that your writing is strong, right? So because of these things, they might ask you to have a certain score in certain like areas. Okay. Now, if you are going for fields like business, you might be asked to take the GMAT. If you are going for any other field, they'll ask you to take the GRE. Okay. Now, students are quite reluctant, to take these exams because it is a lot that you have to study, prepare for months, and then like you take the exam, right? It costs some amount of money as well. But as advisors of USEF or Education USA, we encourage you to take these exams because it can be beneficial for you, especially in terms of receiving scholarships and so on. Okay. Now, when you have taken these exams and you've scored well, even when they're trying to give you these assistantships or anything like that, they might look at your score and see how well you've performed. And based on that, they'll decide, oh, okay, like this student has this much score. So, like we can give it to this student. And when they look at your academics, it's difficult for them to judge, where you stand because every country has their own academic system. But if you've taken the standardized test, they can judge every student in the same like scale, right? So having these scores can help you in the long run. Okay. And if you are taking like the GRE, if you're going for subjects such as engineering or mathematics, they might want you to have a better score in the quantitative section when compared to the verbal section. If you're going for like humanities, social sciences, they want you to have better scores in the verbal section. Okay, so that is something that you need to work hard on. Now, the SOP is the statement of purpose. It is very important that you spend time writing this SOP. This cannot be written in just one day. Okay, it will take many, many days, weeks, or even months to come up with an SOP. It is quite tough for grad level students when you are writing this SOP because for each college that you're applying, the essay, the SOP has to be tailored according to the school that you're applying to. Okay, it cannot be like a generic essay that you send to each and every college. Okay, that's not going to help you at all. Okay, as I've said, you have to do your research about the professors in your SOPs, you are going to talk about professors that you want to work with at that particular university. What will be your contribution to that professor's work? So those kind of things have to be mentioned in the SOP that you are writing. Okay, recommendations. So uh, Usually, you could be asked for 3 recommendations. If that is the case, 2 could come from your professors who have taught you. Okay, so go to your professors, speak with them. Make sure that you give a list of things that you had done while you were in college, so that they remember that you were like this kind of student, and they can mention that in the letter of recommendation, right? And if you've been working for some time, some colleges are also ready to receive one letter from your employer. Okay. So again, the letter that they are writing for you should be unique to you, not again a generic one where they're just changing the name and giving it to you. They have to mention your strengths, right? Some students, I've seen letters where the professor talks about how the student wasn't like really good in the beginning of the year, and then the student disappeared for a while, but then came back, showing like a project that the student had worked on, and then like how the student like improved drastically in that particular subject, right? So how were you as a student? Like, were you participating in different projects? What kind of input were you giving in your class, right? Were you helping like your classmates? Did you work on a project that was very different from others? Were you sharing your ideas and all? So all those things that you did while you were a student in class, that needs to be mentioned. Now in Nepal, like we also have an Okay, so I've come back again, but yeah, I don't know, something's wrong with the internet today at office. Okay. Um, so the next thing I was talking about is the mastery of chosen field, which means that they're looking at two things here. One, they're looking at your academic records, and the next thing they're looking at um, how have you, or like what have you done in the field of study that you want to go for. Okay, so that is something that they are looking at here. So in the academic side, what is your GPA? Right? That is something that they want to know. And since you are going for a field, you're concentrating in a particular subject and you're going to study that, what was your score in that particular field that you want to go and study further? Okay, it should be good, right? Because if you've chosen a field and then you have the least marks in that, it might be questionable, like, okay, this student wants to study this, but like, why did this student not perform well in this particular subject when compared to the other subjects that you had taken, right? And then the GPA is also there. Okay, and then in terms of like what you've done, what kind of like project works did you do, how involved were you, how much do you understand about the field that you want to go and study, do you have any relevant like experience in that area, right? That is something that the professors would like to know. Okay, now if you've done like project works, but maybe it wasn't like directly related to the field that you want to go and study, what did you learn from those projects that you've conducted so far? That's something that you want to share, because they want to know that you have had like some experience, like doing these kind of like projects. Because if they are taking you into their department and you know nothing at all, right? They have to spend their time like teaching you and so on. But then if you have that experience from before, it's going to be helpful for them, because they don't have to like teach you from the beginning itself, right? So yeah, whatever you've done so far, you want to try to show that in the application. If you've not done anything at all, in that case, you might want to start and try to do like something in your field. That way, it's going to help you and it is going to boost your application. Okay, so for the grad level, the selection process is not like an elimination process, but they're trying to get the cream of the crop. So whoever is applying, whoever is doing well, whoever rises to the top, those are the students who are going to be chosen. So for example, let's say you are applying with your application, they might be giving you points for each of the application like component that you are sending. So let's say for your um, academic grades, you got a certain point. For your SOP, you got a certain point. For your project extracurriculars that you've done, you get a certain point. For your recommendation, again, like certain point, right? Um, Standardized test, also certain point. So at the end, they might be adding up those points. Okay, so let's say the university has like 20 spots to offer. Whoever rises to the top 20, they are the ones who are going to get those spots. Okay, so by telling you this, what I'm also trying to emphasize is sometimes we may not be good in all of the components that we are sending to the college, but we can work hard on components that can be really like done well. So, for example, your grades that you've got, you cannot go back and change it. But you can work harder on the standardized test and get a better score. You can work harder on your SOP and really make it a strong SOP, right? So concentrate and do well in the things that you can like really like make a difference kind of thing, and submit your applications. Okay. So usually it's the summer that is a good time to start research for the next fall, right? Deadlines can fall from November to March. Later, the deadlines, fewer like scholarships are going to be available, or maybe like no scholarship at all could be available, right? So there's still time for March to come, but again, some colleges might have like, closed their deadlines already. But then, yeah, do your research properly, where you want to apply, and stay connected with the professors as well. Okay. Now, there are 4 steps to financing your education. Okay, so these are 4 things that you want to take into consideration, which is to assess your personal and family funds. So when we are applying for grad school, we may feel, oh, like Unsani, I don't want to pay like any money at all. Okay, but then if the college is only able to provide you like a partial scholarship, in that case, you have to provide like some funds, right? And when we are thinking of applying to a US college, we must like come up with like some funding from our side. Okay, we can't say, oh, like college is going to give us like full scholarship, so I'll just be dependent on them, right? We have to come up with a budget that our family or whoever is our sponsors can pay for us. Now it depends on the school and your application, like how good your application is. Based on that, the college might be going to give you like a full scholarship, right? As I said earlier, the scholarship is based on merit. So even if you are, a person who can pay full tuition, or like the full like total cost of attendance, but if you are a really talented student, the college will still be able to give you that scholarship. They won't say, oh, the student can afford the education, so we will not provide the scholarship. Okay, so you come up with that budget. Depending on your application, the college will decide like whether they can give you full or whether they can give you the partial scholarship. But that amount that you've come up with has to be the same for every college that you apply. You can't say, if I apply to college A, I will pay this much. If I get accepted by college B, I'll pay this much. Okay, that amount remains the same. Okay, identify eligibility requirements for the scholarship. So some colleges might have additional requirements, such as the work experience. Some might say you have to take maybe the subject GRD as well, right? Some might have like some other requirements. So what are they? You want to make sure that you fulfill all of those criteria. Okay. Compile effective applications. You are applying for the grad level. The professors like who are reviewing your application, like when you're applying for undergrad, sometimes like students are still young, but then when you are applying for grad school, you are mature enough, so they want to see like a really good application. They don't want to be chasing you, saying that, hey, like this document is like still missing, you want to send this, so make sure that you send everything by that application deadline that the set. Okay, and if you're asking like questions and so on, like write proper emails, so make sure that your communications are good. So that is something that grad students have to be like proactive, and like remember that you have to be on top of your game. Okay. So there are also some ways that you can reduce educational cost, and we'll talk about that again in a different slide. Okay, so earlier I said that I'll talk about the 3 kinds of scholarships that you can get. So one is the fellowship, the other is the assistantship, and the next one is the grant. Okay, so we'll talk about all of these in detail. So if it's the fellowship, it is something that, it's like an honor that you get if you get a fellowship, because um, you are a student who is really strong, so that is why the college is going to provide you with this like fellowship. There's no work obligation to it when you get a fellowship. It is going to be offered to you in the beginning of the academic year. So when you receive your I-20 itself, on the I-20, they're going to mention what your fellowship consists of, how much funding that you're going to get. It might be a research like work that you are working on, with the professor, or it might be like, some other like kind of project that you're working on with the guidance of the professor, right? But there's no like work obligation, as in like you have to go and like teach classes, or, do some other kind of work. You are working on your own like research work. Okay, so it is going to be given to someone who's taking like advanced courses, doing research work, or working on a project. Now, for fellowship, the application deadlines can be much earlier. Okay, you send in the same like application, like with all your academics, your SOP, standardized tests, and all that. Everything, all the components are going to be the same, but the application deadline is going to be much earlier than the normal regular deadlines. It could be 2 to 3 months in advance of the normal regular deadlines. So you're applying early, you are like more prepared, with the application early on. You're sending it so that the professors can review it, and they can decide whether they can give you the fellowship or not. Okay, so it ranges from 1K to 15K per year. Over 25K is rare. Times may also include tuition and fee, right? So it depends on like how much the college can provide you. Okay, so based on all of your merits, how good you are as an applicant, how strong you are, based on all of those merits, the college is going to decide whether you can be given that fellowship or not. Okay, and when you check out the college websites, or even if you are looking at like some of the books that are here in the library, the Peterson's book, like normally they would mention like whether the college provides like fellowship or not. Not all colleges will provide. So you have to check like whether the college has that system in place. Okay, so now talking about assistantships, you will be working under the professor if you are getting an assistantship, right? But don't take this just as an employment relationship. Try to build a good rapport with your professor when you get this assistantship, okay? So by this, get to know your professor well. Also, like, tell your professor, like what maybe like what are your goals, like what motivates you and things like that, right? So that the professor knows that, and if any kind of like opportunities come up, they refer you to refer your name like for such opportunities. So for example, in the US, there are several like conferences happening throughout the year, and these conferences, it might be happening at different like places. If the professor has like some extra like remaining like money or funding, in that case, if the professor knows that you are interested in a certain area, they might recommend your name for that like program or that conference. So to participate in these conferences too, like you have to register, and it's going to cost you like money, right? Even to go to this different state, you'll have to maybe stay at the hotel. You need like flight tickets and so on. So if the professor knows you well, they could like offer you, to go and attend that conference and pay for the costs that come up. So if you have that good rapport, that will really be helpful for you. Okay. So assistantships are again like integral and important part of graduate education, because you get to learn a lot from your professors. It might be, the professors like books that you are studying, while you are at that like college, right? Sometimes like a year when we are studying, we are like maybe studying professors from like different universities, but at the US, some of the professors might be the same one, like who's like books that you are studying at that like college, right? And if you are a student who wants to become like professor later on, there are a lot of things that you can learn at that point. Okay, so it's an important part of grad studies. So grant ranges from 5K to 30K per year, with 10 to 20 hours of work per week. You cannot work more than 20 hours. The professor is going to provide you with like how much hours of work they can give you. Sometimes during like the summer holidays, when you have like 3 months like break, professors might have like more work. So instead of like 20 hours at that time, they can also provide you with 40 hours of work. Okay, so this is like the assistantship. Now, in the assistantship, there are going to be two kinds: teaching assistantship and research assistantship. So if you get like a teaching assistantship, a TA position, you'll get like a salary, right? Which is going to be helpful for you. It will depend from state to state. Minimum could be like $15, but like how expensive is that state, based on that too. Like they'll provide you, some could give you 25, some could give you even like more, right? So it depends like where you will be, and that is going to help you, right? So you get like a teaching assistantship, but again, you have to check like whether that amount that you're getting is going to include health benefits or not. If it does not include, then you have to purchase health insurance by yourself, right? Involves teaching undergrad classes, grading papers, and monitoring labs. It might be a little bit more work when compared to like a research assistant. When a professor is going to class, you have to go along with the professor, sit at the back of the class, listen to what the professor taught the undergrad class, and later on, when the students have questions, they'll come and ask you, and you have to help them out, right? And again, like reading papers, maybe helping in the labs as well, right? So those are some of the things that you will do as a teaching assistantship. So earlier I mentioned about the 9 credits that each graduate students have to take, right? So when you are a TA, you might have to carry a lighter course load because you already have these you have a lot to do, you have a lot on your plate, because again, you have to go with your professor to classes, you have to meet with these undergrads and then like help them out, right? So it might be difficult for you to take like more than like 9 credits, okay? Especially in your first year. Once you get used to it, maybe you can like take more, but then otherwise it might be difficult for you, so you have to carry a lighter course load. Okay, now for the research assistantship, the pay is going to be very similar to what a teaching assistant would get. You would be involved in the research assignment, like that the professor is doing. You might be collecting data, you might be doing like some lab work, you might be like writing papers and so on, right? So it depends like what kind of work your professor does give you, right? And some of the colleges, they will have a rule where you have to maybe like submit a thesis, dissertation, and so on, right? So if that is the case, you might want to choose a topic which is similar to what your professor is working on. That way it's going to help you as well as the professor, and it's going to like be easy for you to work on that particular topic, because you'll get help from your professor as well. Okay, now I talked about the TA and RA, right? In case you are not able to get a TA or RA, in that case, you could also try for the graduate assistantship, which is a position in the graduate office, admissions office. So when you write like emails and so on, sometimes like it might be a graduate student who's replying to these emails and so on, right? So you might get a job there. Like you are working with like paperwork for students, filing like papers and all that, right? So that might be another like assistantship in case you do not get a TA or RA position. Okay, so you can ask about that. And at times, you might be a student who's good at a particular subject. So let's say you are an engineering student, you are good in maths, right? So you do not get like a assistantship in your own department. You can reach out to the maths department. Maybe there are fewer students there and they have like a position open. So there's no harm in requesting for that as well. Okay, so the next one, which is the grant. Okay, so the fellowship and the assistantship is something that you get in the beginning of the academic year. it will be mentioned on your I-20, whereas the grant is something that you will only receive once you are a student at the US campus. Okay, so students who are doing advanced level of study, they could get these grants. So there might be like different kinds of companies that come up with special projects. So they say, they come up to the professor and say, we want like this project to be done. So the professor will let the students know you have to submit proposals. Based on the proposals, like whoever submitted the best one, based on that, the professor is going to choose the student for that particular grant. Okay, so why this grant is given only once you are a student is because the professor has to know how well you can perform certain like projects, right? So based on your capability or your ability, they are going to like judge you and provide you these grants. Okay, so grants will not be a lot. It might be 1K to 3K. More than 10K is rare, right? You may already have like a fellowship, you may already have an assistantship, but this can be like additional money that you can apply for once you are there on campus. Okay, so this may not like include living cost or anything like that, just like extra like money for you, based on like how good you are, based on how good you are in terms of like carrying on that particular project. You will be given this grant by the professor. Okay, but one thing to remember if you are applying for these grants is read the terms and conditions properly. Some of these companies that come up with these projects might have terms and conditions where they say that you have to maybe work with them after you graduate, whereas maybe you have some other plans, so make sure that you know what it says before you sign up for any of these grants. Okay, so now how to win graduate assistantships. So few things that you want to remember. Okay, so the professors are the ones who are controlling the assistantship. So make sure that you know about them thoroughly before you apply. You can find out more about them through the department like web pages. Try to communicate with them. Sometimes it's difficult to get a response from them. So when you are writing these emails, also a carbon copy, like CC the graduate admissions director, right? So in case if the professor is not replying, they'll let you know, like, or they will maybe refer you to some other like professor or so on, right? It might be difficult to search professors, who's doing your work, like kind of thing. But then if you go to like Google, like scholarly, if you type in maybe the name of the professor, maybe like some research like work from there, like you can see who's working on such kind of who's working on such kind of like projects, so that way you can start reaching out to them. Okay, so in your essays as well as your emails that you are writing to professors, you're not going to be writing about, can you give me the scholarship? I'm like from Nepal or so on like that. But then you're going to talk about how can you contribute? Okay, because if you cannot like contribute anything, if you cannot do anything for the professor, why would they even bother to give you that grant, right? So how can you help? That is like what you want to showcase in your emails or your essays that you are writing. Okay, present polished and professional applications. Try to also secure interviews or like calls over phone, Skype, Zoom, anything like that, so that you can get to know the professor better. You can explain yourself better, right? So you also know like how that professor is like before you apply to that particular university. And there's also this website called Rate My Professor, RATE, ratemyprofessor.com, where you can type the name of the professor and see like student feedback on how that professor is. Is it easy to work with the professor? Sometimes professors might have funding, but then they might be a very difficult person, right? So if that is the case, then you might have a hard time. And for grad students, it's difficult to like change from one department to another, because the grant that you're getting is coming from that particular professor from that particular department, right? So you want to find out a little bit more about how that professor is. So use that website to find out more. Okay, so now corresponding properly with your professors. Few things to remember: proper email address, right? like properly, your emails in paragraphs, not in like one block. Go with safe like site saying like dear professor, instead of just writing dear like David or something like that, right? So go with like dear professor. Okay. When you end your email, at the end you have to have like a proper signature, which means it has to have your full name, your contact information, your email address, your address, like where you come from, so they know exactly like where you're from. You can talk about academic history, but just the recent degree that you've completed. Mention what field that you want to go and study. If it's engineering, what engineering? Is it civil engineering? Is it like aerospace engineering? Like what exactly are you going for, right? Which semester year are you applying for? Professional work experience that you've had, like you can maybe mention about that as well. GRE, GMAT, and TOEFL scores, you can mention it, but then they're not going to accept scores that are sent um, through you. It has to go from the testing organizations. Okay. And you can ask whether they would want to look at your resume. Do not send your resume in the first email that you are sending. Okay. So you can write to them and then ask them a question like whether they would want to look at your resume, and then they could let you know, and accordingly you can send it later on. Okay. So how to increase your aid? Request colleges to match your current aid offer in case they did not provide you the amount that you had requested. So, for example, let's say a college costs $30,000. You had said that you can pay $10,000 and you wanted like up to 20,000. Maybe college accepted you, but said, okay, you have to pay 25, so it's like five more thousand more than like what you had requested. So there's no harm in saying that, when I applied, I'd mentioned that I could pay only like this much. Is there any way that my scholarship can be increased? You can request for that. Okay. Apply to colleges in a cluster. Most competitive colleges compete for the same students. So similar kind of, colleges in terms of acceptances, um, so if it's like if you are a really like good student, colleges can compete for you, saying that, okay, I'm going to give you this much, like another college will say, I'll give you like this and this, like so they're trying to like get you in because you are a really like talented student. Okay. Ask politely to speak with the director of graduate admissions or professors if your need is not met, or if you've been accepted by like several other colleges. Maybe you've been accepted by three colleges. College A was your first choice, but when you're comparing the aid, college A gave you the least amount and B and C gave you a better amount, right? So if that is the case, you can write to them and say that, I'm really interested to come to your college, but the amount of aid that you've provided is, less. I've had also applied to so and so college. I got this kind of like offer, but my first choice is your college. You can write to them and see like if they can increase their aid. In some cases, we've seen that colleges were able to increase, but please do not make up your own college B and C. They could ask you to submit I-20s, or they could reach out to those colleges and ask, like whether you were really accepted or not. Okay, so don't be lying, tell the truth. Okay. And beat the priority deadline. As I said, there will be like a priority deadline if you're looking for scholarship. If you apply by that priority deadline, you will be considered for the scholarship. If you apply later on, then they'll think you do not need the scholarship. Okay, so please try to meet that priority deadline. Okay. And research outside sources for scholarship. For example, our office offers a master scholarship, that is the Fulbright scholarship, which will probably be out in February. And you can see the details. They will have certain criteria for it. If you're eligible, you can apply for that. Similarly, there might be some other like outside scholarship that are there. There used to be like scholarship given by like ADB, scholarship. Maybe you can like Google that. There might be like some other, types, maybe like outside like alumni scholarship that is given to your college. So those kind of things you can like research on. Okay. Ways to reduce cost of attendance, take more courses and graduate early. Some colleges will ask you to pay for the 9 credits that you have to take, but will allow you to take maybe few more other credits for free. So if that is the case, within maybe like 1.5 year, you could complete your master's instead of 2 years, right? So by taking more credits if possible. Live with relative, friend, or host parent. Another way to reduce your cost. If you have relatives, you can live with them if they live nearby your college. Sharing apartment with friends or host parents, meaning like American families. You live with them, you pay them a certain amount, right? So that is another way. If you are living on campus, apply for resident advisor position. After you've lived for a semester or year, you could get that position. If you get that, your living cost would be waived. If you do not get 20 hours of work with the professor in terms of teaching assistantship or research assistantship, you could apply for other jobs that are available on campus, right, to make up for that 20 hours that would be allowed. And try for the out of state tuition waiver in case you're applying to any of the public schools. Okay, so some scholarship myths. You cannot be transferring with scholarship. The scholarship is limited to that particular university that you are studying at. It cannot be transferred to another one. Scholarship with high TOEFL IELTS scores or high GRE math scores. If you get a good score, it is going to help, right? But based only on these scores, they are not going to give you a scholarship. Okay. And working outside is a big no. Especially with the new administration, you want to be careful, when you are a student in the US, okay, you can work on campus jobs, but you cannot be working off campus. Okay, so here are some useful websites that are going to help you in terms of like funding. And also, please come and make use of a library. We are open Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's a free library. You just have to come with a national ID and you can use all of the books that are here. You can do college research, you can search about scholarships, you can read essay books and so on, please yeah, visit our library if you are here in Kathmandu. Okay, so now if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Okay, so somebody has asked, so how do we apply for assistantship? So usually, like when you are applying in the form, they might be asking like which kind of assistantship you are applying for, or just based on your application as a whole, they review it and see like whether you are a good student, whether they can like provide you with the assistantship. Based on that, the college is going to decide. Okay. And you also asked about who to CC. So that was the graduate admissions director. Okay, so along with the professor, you also want to CC the graduate admissions director. Okay, some other questions. I'm a fresh PBS pass out student with a final score of 72% in the final year and 63 in the aggregate. Can I make it on August? So this totally depends on, the colleges that you're applying to, what are the requirements, what do they ask, right? So based on that, you'll see like whether you can make it for this August or not. Okay. Do we need to convert a GPA to the US scale through WES? This also depends on your school. Some of the colleges will have in-house people who know that if you've studied in Nepal, if you studied under a certain university, what your GPA converts into according to the US system. So if they have those people, then you do not have to like convert it. But if your college is saying that you have to do like a WES evaluation, in that case, yeah, you have to do it. Okay. Can you please tell me about the Fulbright scholarship? So Fulbright scholarship is for the master's level. Okay. there are certain like subjects who can apply for. It's not offered to students who are going for like medical fields. Okay, so more details will be found. You can find out more details when the scholarship is out, probably in February, right? So stay tuned. Be checking our website, usefnepal.org. It will be like published there. Okay, so from there you can find out more. Right now also you can go and check, last year's like criterias, just to know like what were they. Okay. uh, I have 6 score in IELTS and have been work experience of 2 years and CGPA of 3.71. Can I get? So this depends on the school, okay, where you're applying. Each college is going to have their own set of criteria. Okay, so what is the criteria for the college that you are looking for, right? So do you meet the criteria or not, right? Based on that, you can apply. Okay. I'm fresh bachelor's graduate of business administration, GPA under 3. Shall I do GMAT? Yes, okay. We encourage you to do GMAT, get a good score that can help you, okay? Mhm. I'm a BBA student. Which course can be best for my master's, either MBA or IT? So, what would you like to study, right? Based on that, don't think